Hi everyone, कैसे हैं बेटे? Welcome to History of Nearly Everything. This is a series where we are trying to build certain stories on important themes and learn them, understand them, how they are placed in this current context. Right? That is our fundamental baseline idea here, on which we are trying to build this series. Last week, if you recall, we had a look at history of Afghanistan, isn't it? We started the part one of it. And that is where, if you recall, in part one, I'll give you a brief idea. If you haven't seen the video, I would strongly recommend that you go and do have a look at it. There we have discussed the way in which Afghanistan has always been linked to the happenings of the subcontinent. And we have tried to understand that how such intimacy existed right from the Harappan age. And we reached all the way till you're around 9th, 10th century. I think I mentioned about the Kabul Shahi rulers, how there were Buddhist Shahi and then Hindu Shahi rulers who emerge. Right? I also briefly spoke about how Islam comes into picture. Now I will take up these themes and move ahead and carry it forward. हम लोग बात करेंगे बच्चे यहाँ पर कैसे back to back तमाम dynasties आती हैं, what sort of a role they play. And then I'll take you to the modern times, how the Britishers come into picture. We will speak about the Great Game. Right? And then we will also be talking about the Durand Line. In what context the Durand Line is the official boundary, isn't it, between Afghanistan and Pakistan? To wo kaise bani, we will talk about that. Not only this, we would then carry on, because Afghanistan has a very, fascinating is a wrong word to use, because people are dying there right now as we speak. Right? So that's a wrong usage of term, but yeah, their history is something which is extremely muddled. A lot of foreign powers always trying to interfere. Iran, India, Pakistan, Britain, Russia. Right? Even the Soviets invaded in 1979. Isn't it? So we would try and understand all that and see how Taliban was created. So we will try and understand this like one complete graphic novel. That's how I intend you guys to visualize it. Right? तो चलो पहला part खत्म हो चुका है. Let's take a deep breath and begin for the part 2. जिसका भी miss हुआ है, I would suggest that go quickly and do watch it once. Because I will assume that you have. And any connections I will highlight. Right? So let's begin ahead, right? This is the map. This is the map, right? Iran, Afghanistan. This is Herat, a very important part of western Afghanistan, which was always pretty much under the dominance of Iranian empires. It was a part of the Khorasan province. The eastern portion, that is the Kabul region, and the southern region, the Kandahar region, this was much more in contact with the subcontinent. Right? This is what we have studied by, so far. By mid-7th century, Islam had conquered, vast amount of land. Rashidun Caliphate. Under them, they destroyed the Persian Empire, Sasanians. And they captured the city of Afghanistan, the city of Herat. And from Herat, Islamic influence started radiating. They tried expanding. Now think about it. From Herat, they are trying to expand in all directions. right? They try and move this side. But this is, all the tribal areas. And they tend to avoid it because of the hostile tribes of this region and the terrain of this region. So they do not explore Afghanistan to a lot of extent. Rather, what they do is they move this way. And they start getting Central Asia and all. They also tried raiding modern-day Pakistan, which was a part of the subcontinent then. But then at that point of time, here, there was a very strong empire, Gurjar Pratihar. I have made a couple of videos, right, for the Naqshbazi series. Again, they are all connected here. One of them is talking about Rajput polities. Right, so the Gurjar Pratihar, they did not allow these Islamic armies to enter from this side. Kabul and all, this region was under the control of Kabul Shahis. So these Indian kingdoms were also sitting pretty, but Central Asia, there Islam garnered huge success. A lot of tribes who were living in Central Asia, who are being referred to as Turks. These Turks are nomadic horsemen. And they join in huge numbers, they join the Islamic armies. Right? They joined the Islamic armies of these local Islamic empires. And these Turks, they start invading. So keep this context in your head as we proceed, So there were these several, Islamic independent sultanates as well, which were emerging. What do I mean? Let me put it this way, that initially, once Muhammad died, the entire Islamic empire was very much centralized under the caliph. Initially the Rashidun caliph, then came your Umayyads, right? And after that came Abbasid Caliphate. After Abbasid Caliphate, we are being told that somewhere around 900, the actual authority of the caliph, it started disintegrating. And these independent, emirates and sultanates started emerging, which only showed token, symbolic respect to the caliph. But for all other purposes, they were absolutely independent. Right? So such dynasties do come in and they start hiring these Turks. And because Turks are so talented, they start rising into the professional ladder of the army. And gradually they themselves become independent kings. Okay, so now I am just trying to give you a very quick glance towards the history of the region, right? So the first Islamized Turkish empire which emerges. Initially there were two independent Muslim dynasties, one called as Safavid, other called as Samanid. Right? And they got replaced, they got defeated by this one empire, the Ghaznavid Empire. So initially, it is the Ghaznavids who established dominance in the region. Right? From 976 to 1186, this is where these Ghaznavids, Mahmud specifically, he repeatedly defeated Hindu Shahis. and raided the subcontinent. So he started conquering huge regions of Afghanistan and controlled it till 1186. Right? These are Turkish Mamluks. Mamluks are basically war slaves. Once the Ghaznavids became very powerful, gradually, as happens all the time in history, right, they are being replaced by the Ghurid rule. They are coming from the city of Ghur. Ghaznavids came from city of Ghazni or Ghazna. Ghurids came from city of Ghur. Right? These are called as Ghurids. And in 1186, they completely decimated Ghazna and became the sole power of the region. They were existing from before, but now they became, the supreme power, I should say. They are of Iranian origin. Right? These guys are of Iranian origin. They were of Turkish origin. They are dominating Afghanistan and nearby area. And this is precisely how, things happen in India as well. History of Afghanistan mirrors history of India. So in come the Ghurids. Ghurid, Muhammad of Ghur. He raided India. He defeated Prithviraj Chauhan as well and established a huge Ghurid Empire, controlling, all the way till Ganga, Yamuna. And from there, all the way till your Caspian Sea. Massive empire. This is your Ghurid dynasty. Right? Was there since 880. And after the Ghurids, Ghurids are able to dominate for only a small amount of time. Right? And we notice that Khwarezmia, they become the dominant power. Around 1200. Khwarezmia Empire. It is considered as the largest land-based empire in the global history. Right? Khwarezmia Empire came in very, strong. They are of Turco-Persian origin. It is this Khwarezmia Empire which was controlling Central Asia, Transoxiana, Hindu Kush region, Afghanistan region, Iran. Massive. Right? And it's considered as the largest land-based, landlocked. Something of that kind, I believe. Okay, so moving on, Khwarezmia Empire is destroyed by a person known as Genghis or Changiz, also known as Temujin. Right? He and his tribe practiced some kind of Buddhist shaman religion, and they were established in around Mongolia. This fellow Genghis, he united all the Mongol tribes and started a very fine empire. And then he had a trade dispute with Khwarezmia. And you know what he did? He did this. Starting early 1210, this fellow Genghis Khan, coming from here, devastated the entire Islamic cities of West Asia. He did not cross Indus and entered the subcontinent because of Iltutmish, right? But otherwise, he absolutely ransacked all these regions. Do you see? Kabul, Ghazni, Samarkand, Bukhara. So he completely just ravaged all this region. This was your Changiz Khan. So for a brief amount of time, Changiz dominated this entire thing. Then, of course, Changiz dies, and one of his grandsons, he converted to Islam. Gradually, his empire was divided into Khanates. Khanates of Central Asia, they are called as. Right? Some of them are quite important. Okay, moving on. Finally, after this, invasion, 13th century invasion of Changiz, Afghanistan is all devastated. In the 14th century, enter the Timurids. This is basically your Timur Lane. Right? Timurid. He established a huge dynasty. He also invaded India. Anybody who is controlling Afghanistan, do you realize? He has an entry into India. Historically, it has been proven. Strategically, that position is very important to guard the subcontinent. Your entire Khyber region. Okay, so Timurids, they enter the scene in around 1370. Right? Timurids are your Turkish in origin. Timurids are Turkish in origin. And Changiz was Mongolian in, right? Both of them were placed just next to each other. So Timur from Central Asia marched and established a huge empire who ruled for 137 years. And Timur, why is he important? Timur, he of course raided a lot of places within India. Not only that, he, brought huge prosperity to the region which had been destroyed. He rebuilt the city of Herat. And this entire period, right, 14th, 15th century, this is called as a Timurid Renaissance. They brought back the artists, the scholarly tradition, right? They brought it all back somewhere and revitalized the region. Herat was their capital. In 16th and 17th century, after Timur, in 16th and 17th century, after Timur, the entire Afghanistan region was divided into a threefold division, which I have written here. The northern part was under one of the Khanates. The western part under the Safavid, Persian, Iranian Safavid Shia dynasty. And the eastern and southern were under Sunni Mughals. Sunni and, that kind of, Mughals. All right, so let's quickly have a look at certain maps just to get our, visual understanding going. Around 950 CE, this is the map. Do you notice this is Samanid Empire? These are your independent emirates, which I was talking about, who started getting formed once the caliphate declined, right? So the Samanids are here. The Samanids, they started recruiting the Turks. Such as Alptogene, right? the guy who established the city of Ghazni. Very talented horsemen, all of these Turks. Just like Central Asians have always been in our history, man. Look at Hunds. The Aryans, we also get to know, they also came from Central Asia, isn't it? Central Asia bhi keh sakte hain, shayad kehna galat hoga, but yeah, they came from Eurasian steppes. So maybe you can generalize. Safavids also arose. Safavids, you remember I mentioned that name. Samanid upar the, Safavid niche the. Not very important for us, not very important for us. But still, do you see, they were controlling portions of Afghanistan. So this is why I thought, in a story you should know all the variables. Even if you know, at least all the important variables, right? Even if you know just one bit about them, it's all right. Variables मालूम रहेंगे तो डरोगे नहीं किसी भी चीज से. That's the reason why I'm, showing you these maps. Otherwise, we could do without them as well, right? Same time map. The Ghazni became very powerful. And do you see Ghazni, as Ghazni is growing, Samanids decline, Safavids decline. Who stays strong, controlling Afghanistan? The Ghaznis, the Ghaznavids. Okay? Simply another representation of the same time period. This is Ghazni. This is Ghazni and the Ghaznavids, and see how under Mahmud and couple of other rulers as well, the Ghaznavids expanded. Do you notice? And here from Delhi to Caspian Sea to Tigris, massive empire, massive empire. He also patronized Firdausi, isn't it? Who wrote Shahnama. This is Ghurid Sultanate. Acha dekho pehle, Khwarizmi, do you notice Khwarizmi emerges? And Khwarizmia, they defeat the Ghurids. So Ghurids now have nowhere to go except look east. That is towards Afghanistan. Ghurids wanted to expand towards the west, but Khwarizmi were too strong. They didn't allow them. They did not allow them. Khwarizmi is not landlocked. I'm sorry, I made a mistake back then, right? मैंने बोला था ऐसा कुछ. I apologize. I must have read something else. I'm probably getting confused. माफी. So, जैसा मैं कह रहा था बेटे, so Khwarizmi do not allow the Ghurids to go west. So अब जो महमूद हैं बेचारे, sorry, Muhammad जो हैं, Muhammad of Ghur, now he has nowhere to go except try and look east, and he gets massive success in east. 1190s, right? Battle of Tarai, he ends up defeating. Initially, he tried capturing Gujarat, but was defeated. So he went for Chauhans of Ajmer, trumped them in the second Battle of Tarai. And from there, he moved, defeated a lot of other Rajput rulers which were present. Right? And established this is where the Delhi Sultanate lies, isn't it? Because Muhammad of Ghur dies. And all these and he did not have a male heir. So his entire kingdom, Ghurid Sultanate, is divided among his Mamluks, his slaves. Right? Such as your Kutubuddin Aybak. Chalo, proceeding on. Notice how Khwarizmi is controlling that entire eastern, western Afghanistan, Herat region. And all this will be destroyed. All this will be destroyed by that one fellow, Genghis Khan. The only person who was able to conquer Afghanistan is Genghis Khan. Nobody else has managed to do it. Interesting. Many people have tried, but you will see how so many of people will try using all kinds of modern guns, weapons. Nothing, right? This is the Timurid Empire I was talking about. Again, notice the expanse of the empire. Can you see it? These, light green areas, if you notice, they are his empire. Wow, isn't it? From Delhi, Multan, Kabul, Kandahar. Notice this is just like Kanishk in olden days. Magnificent. Balkh, Samarkand, the entire Transoxiana. This is Aral Sea. This is Oxus. This is Jaxartes. आमू दरिया और सिर दरिया भी कहते हैं. ताशकंद, खीवा, हेरात, कांदाहार, brilliant. Hormuz, Shiraz, a very popular Iranian city. Astrabad. The entire Caspian Sea, if you look at it, man. Right, isn't it? Mosul, Baghdad, Basra, Aleppo. These are all cities which we are hearing the name. See how ancient they are. So this is what Timurid did. 16th and 17th century. This is what was going on, as I was telling you. This was the Khanate of Bukhara. Khanate, you remember Khanate? I told you the partitioned Changez Empire, Mongol Empire. So the Khanate of Bukhara was controlling northern portions of Afghanistan. I believe your Mazar-e-Sharif and that region. The western area under the Safavids, right? And the eastern under the Mughals. This orange color region, again a brilliant empire. This is the Shia Safavid Empire. Shia, Shahs of Iran. Safavid. Massive dynasty. In fact, Mughal, Safavid, and Ottoman Turks, all three of them are called as Gunpowder Empire. The Turks migrated to Asia Minor, Anatolia region, and they settled there. That is why the name got the place Turkey. Okay? But originally they are coming from Central Asia next to Mongolia. As you can expect, there was a lot of conflict between these three powers. Bukhara, Khanate, and Safavids, they fought over, the region. And even the Mughals and the Persians, they also at times had bitterness over Kandahar and all. There was a lot of bitterness involved. Right? So border conflicts has been going on in that region since a long time. Probably they are paying the price of being a tribal, ethnic kind of a society surrounded by large civilizations or ambitious countries or nations. Because so much of interference will create chaos. चलो बात करेंगे. I'm sure it will be obvious to you कि भाई क्या कर रहे हैं सब यहाँ पे, है ना? So okay, this again is a very interesting and fascinating map. Do you notice? Kabul was one of the original 12 subas created by Akbar in 1560s. So it was an integral part of India. And gradually, we are being told here that during the time of Shah Jahan, Bukhara, notice this, not Bukhara, I'm so sorry. During the time of Shah Jahan, Balkh and Badakhshan, Balkh is your Bactria. बात करी है फर्स्ट वीडियो में. Balkh and Badakhshan, they also became Subas. That means a lot of North Afghanistan, it was a part of the subcontinent. Okay. Kandahar, see how such a massive province was right there. Kandahar, Kabul, entire eastern, southern Afghanistan, northern as well. और यहां पे थोड़ा सा रीजन देखो Safavid का है. These are Safavids. This is the Khanate of Bukhara. As I was telling you, Kandahar was the troubled border between Safavids and Mughals. And the locals, the tribes, would often switch sides depending upon their convenience. And Afghanistan has a lot of Mughal architecture. Ab to kya bacha hai? Ab to they broke pretty much everything. We talked about Bamiyan as well, right? In the name of trying to ensure idol worship. Trying to ensure that there is no idol worship, they destroyed pretty much a lot of things. Isn't it sad? I mean, I don't know what you can say. These are list of the Subas taken from Wikipedia. Okay. So, as I was telling you, Kandahar often switched sides, went from the Mughal control to the Iran, Safavids, right? So, bete, what happened is in around 1709, point to note, Aurangzeb is dead. Kandahar was under the control of Iranian Safavids. And the Safavids appointed a Georgian governor who was very ruthless, And he was sent as governor of Loe, Kandahar, the greater Kandahar. And he was a very, kind of a sadistic, must have been a pretty evil man, because what we are being informed here is that the Kandahari Pashtun population, right, Pashtun, or I'm not too sure about the pronunciation, but yeah, the Kandahar Pashtun population, they in 1709 rebelled. First incidents of an Afghan identity, Pashtun identity. This is Mir Wais. This is Mir Wais Hotak. Yes, Mir Wais Hotak. Under his leadership, the Kandaharis, they rebelled successfully and they declared their independence. Right? So they became an independent local Pashtun kingdom. And see how wonderful this fellow must have been, Mir Wais Hotak. He rejected the title of king and he called himself Prince of Kandahar and General of the National Troops. Mir Wais Hotak. In 1715, he dies and is replaced by his, again, talented Mahmud Hotak. And he establishes this is Mahmud Hotak. And this guy was of an entirely different, because by the time he came, the Safavids were declining. The Safavids were now declining, and this fellow, Mir Wais Hotak के जो ये बेटे हैं, इनका नाम क्या है देखो, Mahmud Hotak. Right? This is what his name, Shah Mahmud Hotak. You know what he did? He invaded Persia. An Afghan invaded Persia, captured, defeated Persia, and became the Shah of Persia. An Afghan became the Shah of Persia. It has always been the other way around. The Shah of Persia would also be the Emir of Afghanistan. But now the tables have turned. and a huge, although it was a very short duration empire, but yes, the Kandaharis did create an empire. It's called as a Hotaki Empire. This is the Hotaki Empire at its absolute height. Do you notice? They are controlling Kandahar, and then they move into Persia and control significant portion of Persia. Hotaki Empire. Persians, of course, as you can expect, they did not like it. They kept on rebelling, revolting every time, it was possible. Thousands of Persians were massacred by the Hotaks because they wanted to, stamp their strong foot there. Right? And so, yes, thousands were massacred, we have been told. And finally, next year to this, that means in 1729, a Persian known as Nadir Shah emerges, and he comes and defeats the Hotaks and captured this region. And by 1738, he managed to create a massive empire. Hotaks were kicked out of Persia first, and then they were replaced and kicked out of Afghanistan as well. So it was a very short duration empire which they created, and they were replaced by the entry of Nadir Shah. Nadir Shah, he establishes what has been termed as the Afsharid dynasty. Afsharid dynasty. Nadir Shah ka naam I'm sure aap logon ne suna hoga because he does invade India. Do you see the pattern? He does invade India, right? And a very successful one. I think 1739 he invaded India, right? Battle of Karnal. And they were very weak by this time, right? And he also had help of Abdali Pashtun. देख पश्तून में सारे होतक्स नहीं थे ना, होतक सपोर्टर नहीं रहे होंगे. So the Pashtuns, Abdali Pashtuns, right? They support Nadir Shah. And these Abdali Pashtuns and Iranians, they invaded India in 1739. Okay. This is your Nadir Shah. And he absorbed entire Afghanistan within Persia. Ahmad Shah Abdali also joined him as a troop. Ahmad Shah Abdali also joined him as a troop. This is the empire of Nadir Shah. Do you notice he's once again uniting it? The yellow one is the modern day Iran. Right? Kabul, Delhi, सब कैप्चर किया इन्होंने भाई. Baghdad, Baku, the Napoleon of Persia. Interesting. This is another map depicting all his raids. He did not just raid Karnal and Delhi. No, he raided a lot of other places in Central Asia as well, as you can see, and West Asia as well. Nadir Shah is finally assassinated in 1747 by his Persian officers. And at this stage, Ahmad Shah Abdali makes a move. He organizes the Grand Assembly called as Loya Jirga in Pashto language, right? And this 25-year-old Ahmad Shah Abdali becomes the leader of the Pashtun community. And the tribe changes its name from Abdali. They became the Durranis. They became the Durranis. ये Durrani बन जाते हैं बेटे, ठीक है? अच्छा, all right. And this Ahmad Shah Abdali, you probably know him, right? He did invade India several times. In fact, defeated the Marathas in the Battle of Panipat as well. Isn't it? The third Battle of Panipat, he defeated them. And he also defiled the Sarovar, the tank of Harmandir Sahib. That means the Golden Temple in Amritsar, right? So he even, do you notice, this is his, Durrani Empire. Kabul was the summer capital, Peshawar was the winter capital here of the Abdalis. Moving forward, this is Ahmad Shah Abdali or Durrani. He had a son, Timur, which was again pretty good a ruler. He managed to consolidate his dad's achievements. Timur had couple of sons. In fact, he had many sons. Zaman and Shah Shuja are important for us. Zaman Shah and Shah Shuja are important for us. So once again, let me repeat. Timur Ahmad Shah, then Timur Durrani. And Timur had two sons, Zaman Shah. Till Timur, everything was going fine, till Timur Durrani. Once he died, there was a war of succession which began. There was a lot of, factionalism which went on. Jo Shah Shuja hai, this fellow, right? This is 18th century, so you must remember, abhi jo hai bete, that is important. Ki Angrez aa chuke hain. They will also now get involved. So Shah Shuja, he approaches Ranjit Singh. Ranjit Singh at this stage was a very major power, right? 1790s onwards till around 1840, Ranjit Singh dominated the entire Punjab and nearby region, Kashmir and everything. So Shah Shuja approaches Ranjit Singh, and Ranjit Singh likes this political opportunity. He helps. So Shah Shuja escapes to India, and Zaman Shah is ruling, was not doing a very good job at ruling. Because what happens is the entire Durrani Empire, the Durrani dynasty itself is ousted. The entire dynasty, Afsharid dynasty, is ousted by Dost Muhammad Khan. DMK मैंने उसे लिखा है एक दो जगह, Dost Muhammad Khan. And this Dost Muhammad Khan establishes what is called as Bara Kazai dynasty. This is the dynasty which will be staying relevant with us throughout their modern history. Abdalis, the Durranis, they were replaced by Dost Muhammad Khan, who founded the Bara Kazai dynasty. अब जरा सा सिचुएशन को थोड़ा सा पीछे से जूम आउट करते हैं कि आगे आसपास हो क्या रहा है. Let's try and understand that, right? I hope you get this much point, right? Shah Shuja is somewhere there in India, and Zaman has been defeated. This fellow is now sitting pretty on the throne, but he doesn't have a very, wonderful control over the country. Okay, चलिए आगे देखते हैं क्या होता है फिर भाई. So let's zoom out and notice this entire thing that you are looking at, and this, all the colored portion that you find here, this is basically Russian Empire. Russian Empire. Massive. Notice the various shades of red. Russia, in 18th and 19th century, it started expanding. I mean, they were also trying to expand in Europe. Right? They're also trying to expand in Europe. Their influence in Europe. But they are also looking at this Central Asian steppe region, Kazakhstan steppe region, and all these other regions, this region. And gradually they start expanding. And they also defeat the Iranians here. The Iranians are also being defeated from this side. Right? This is how situation is. So, in 18th century, Russia occupies Kazakhstan. And in 19th, they got half of Turkmenistan, whole of Uzbekistan, this region, do you see? This is just above Afghanistan. This is India. And they will also gradually start getting into Iran. Who will be worried? The Britishers were agitated. They thought that the crown in their jewel is about to be snatched at by the big bear. Russia was represented as the big bear in the, your diplomatic circles in those days. Abhi bhi shayad yahi karte honge. Kyrgyzstan, he occupied. So basically, do you notice? He is defeating. He's kicking out the Khanates of Khiva, Bukhara, Khorasan. They were suffering multiple territorial losses from the hands of this Russian giant. So now, this entire two massive empires, right? Russians and British Empire, they were meeting at and Afghanistan and Tibet and Persia. They sort of became a kind of a conflicting arc because of the way China was expanding from so many fronts and sides. So this entire arc, it became a trouble spot for Britain. वो समझ नहीं पा रहे थे कि अब क्या करें. And they started strategizing this and that. This thing is called as the Great Game. A lot of spies were involved. This led to the two Anglo-Afghan Wars. Because Englishmen wanted to ensure that Afghanistan में अपना friendly state है कोई, who will fight with Russians and will not simply become their allies and allow them a cakewalk. They wanted that Russians should be stopped at Afghan itself so that they have time enough to know what to do. They should not right be there at Indus. No, that will be very, very dangerous. They wanted to fight on the Afghan border side, right? तो देखिए भाई, अब क्या क्या होने वाला है, आइए देखते हैं. So in 1837-38, what happened was the Persians, right? They tried to retake Afghanistan with the help of Russia. Persians, with the help of Russians, they tried to capture Afghanistan and they laid siege to the city of Herat. It was unsuccessful, inconclusive. So they had to retreat somewhere. But abhi, do you realize, बहुत problem में था Britain. They were now very, very jittery. They were very jittery. And as a result, we notice that a tripartite, right, treaty is signed between Lord Auckland, our Viceroy, Ranjit Singh, and Shah Shuja. A treaty is signed and they said, you know what, these Barakazai dynasty, they are a usurper. We will take Shah Shuja and place him on the throne of Afghanistan. Dost Muhammad Khan will be replaced. Durranis will be back in power. Ranjit said, all right, you guys can go ahead, but do not march through my territory. That's point one. And I will not get involved. Tum log ko jo karna hai, kar lo. Britishers were very, very, touchy with Ranjit Singh. They knew that they did not want to ruffle feathers of Ranjit Singh. So they agreed. And this is how the first Anglo-Afghan War began in 1839 and went on for 3 long years. In fact, if you look at it, the war ended very quickly. 1839, Britishers entered and the Afghan forces were no match. The Barakazai and Dost Muhammad Khan were, hardly rulers. There was so much of chaos there. They did not have any actual authority. Dost Muhammad Khan, he escaped. Shah Shuja was placed on the throne. Everywhere there was so much of happiness कि चलो हम लोगों ने कर दिखाया. Right? Couple of years later, in 1842, the entire British attachment of soldiers which were placed in Kabul were slaughtered by the local people. All of them. They were slaughtered. Very few people came in. Very few people were able to survive. This is one of the paintings that the entire large army, right? Very few survived. Look at the way this thing is happening, right? The Britishers are coming to take him inside, and he told that what has happened. And Lord Auckland sent a retribution army. Dekh rahe ho bete, the way, the terminology they have been using about Afghanistan since forever has been very, very strange. They sent a retribution army who completely destroyed and burnt the city of Kabul. This was their definition of retribution. So, and they evacuated the city. Once they evacuated the city, Dost Muhammad Khan smilingly came back and sat on the throne. So the war ended with a defeat for Britain because they did not get what they wanted. Right? Now at this stage, Russia and England are also involved in Europe, right? Over the Eastern question. And we hear of Crimean War as well in 1850s where Russia is defeated. In 1870s, Treaty of Berlin is signed. A kind of a peace in Europe over the Eastern question. Of course, it did not succeed, but yes, they signed the Treaty of Berlin. As a result, now once again, Russia shifted its focus to Central Asia. और उन्होंने फिर से यहां पेडल दबाना शुरू किया. We hear of a Russian embassy without informing Dost Muhammad Khan. A Russian embassy came to Kabul, a Russian mission came to Kabul, and they chatted for a while. Now when Britishers came to know about this, at this point of time, Lord Lytton was here. Right? So वो भी काफी arrogant किस्म के इंसान थे शायद, just like Auckland. So Lytton, what he does is, he's the one who organized the Darbar, isn't it? He's the one who organized the Darbar. So Lytton sent his own mission to Dost Muhammad Khan to just remind him the stakes here. Now, Dost Muhammad Khan refused to meet with the British mission. He said, you guys have not taken the permission. Just because I had to allow Russia, that doesn't mean that it becomes a kind of a norm for everyone. You cannot expect me to do it all the time, right? So he rejected. He said, I'm not going to meet you. Go back. And this led to, उन्हें लगा कि भाई Britishers are very, very, jittery about कि England, India हमारे हाथ से नहीं जाना चाहिए. So this led to, this is Lytton, of course. This led to the second Anglo-Afghan. Britishers, once again, inflicted several defeats on Afghanistan. And Treaty of Gandamak was signed in 1879 between Britain and Afghanistan. Right? At that point of time, Barakazai, was in power. Barakazai was in power, and the name of the ruler was Sher Ali. He agreed to sign Treaty of Gandamak, and according to this treaty, Afghanistan said, all right, you can decide our foreign affairs. We will give you that power. You can decide our foreign affairs. कि हमारे किसके कैसे संबंध होंगे, you decide. Okay. Britishers were very happy now. But as I was telling you, Russia became very aggressive in Central Asia after the, Treaty of that Berlin, right? And they captured the entire Turkmenistan and Merv region. This is the Merv region. Do you see? This is right above Afghanistan. Yahin par to Herat hai. And there is no clear border. There is no clear border around this region. So Britishers were very, very panicky now. They were very panicky. And so what they did was, they sent one of their officers, one of their civil servants called as Mortimer Durand. He was sent here and asked to establish a boundary between Iran and Afghanistan. So he was sent to finalize this border between Afghanistan and India. He was given the task of finalizing the border between Afghanistan and British India. There were no clear-cut borders then. He was asked to finalize this border. They wanted to design the border in such a manner that Khyber Pass should be under their rule. They should be protecting Khyber. Because they realized that Afghanistan will not be able to handle the Russian pressure for long. This is called as the Durand Line, 1893. It was, accepted, but Afghanistan has kept on rejecting it. They say that, this is an absolute wrongful conduct. The entire Pashtun community is spread like this in this region. And you're not treating us fairly. They questioned the Durand Line because Durand Line was designed to keep the strategic requirement of British India. It was not looking at the demographic or ethnic, ethnicity of the people. So this is called as a Durand Line. Fair. अच्छा, अब देखो और कैसे धीरे-धीरे tables turn हो रही हैं. This is where your modern day Afghanistan is born, right? After the second Anglo-Afghan War, this is where the modern day Afghanistan emerges. During the World War, there was a lot of pressure on Afghanistan to join. In fact, if you look at it, Germany really encouraged anti-British feelings. And some portions of Afghan population did actually help. But Afghanistan remained neutral largely during the war. And after the war, when the British soldiers were, war-weary, tired, this fellow invaded India. This guy, Aminullah Khan, right? He was the ruler of Afghanistan, the emirate of Afghanistan, the emir of Afghanistan. So he invaded in 1919, he invaded British India. This is called as the third Anglo-Afghan War. 4-5 mahine chali. And British accepted. British were so tired and sick and tired of the war. They said, all right, what do you want? He said, we want our foreign, affairs back. Britishers said, all right, fine, go ahead, take it. And the Treaty of Rawalpindi was signed on 19th August 1919. This is the day when Afghanistan, modern day Afghanistan, celebrates their Independence Day. Right, this is Amanullah Khan. Amanullah Khan, he also introduced many reforms. Compulsory elementary education for women as well. Right? He said that women shouldn't be wearing veil. He abolished veil. And came up with co-ed schools. Co-education schools. And this led to him getting alienated by a lot of orthodox section of religious leaders, the tribal leaders, because they were very set in their thought process. They were not ready to see such radical changes. And we notice that there is some kind of political agitation, civil war kind of a situation here. This is next guy who is important for us. This is Muhammad Zahir Shah. He rules for 40 years, 33 to 73. He promulgated a liberal constitution, experimented with democracy, gave certain rights, of voting to people. Parliament. And he said, all right, 1/3 of it can come from elections. And all these things did not get a lot of success, but it led to a lot of, so many political parties emerged. A lot of political parties started emerging, left se bhi, right se bhi. Throughout the spectrum ideology, people came from all sides. Leftist, rightist, centrist, they came. One was a leftist faction. One, or a leftist party, There was a political party with a leftist ideology. This was called as PDPA, People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan, PDPA. इनके कुछ लोग जो थे, one of their faction, which was known as Parcham faction, they had very close ideological ties with the Soviets. They had very close ideological ties with the Soviets. So as Zahir Khan, the Sultan was there, what started happening was there was a lot of report of corruption, improper behavior from the royal family. And because of some, drought-like situation, there were, also a lot of discontent among public. And as a result, because of all this, these combined reasons, a person, I'm not getting into a former Prime Minister, Mr. X, so he basically seized power, Daud Khan, he seized power in a non-violent coup, 1973. Abrogated the constitution. Right? Abrogated the constitution. He declared Afghanistan to be a republic. And he himself became its first president and PM. But still there were no signs of political stability. See how? In 1978, 73 से ये सब हो रहा है ना देखो, 73 में the monarchy was abolished. In 1978, the Parcham faction, PDPA, Parcham faction of PDPA, they organized a military coup, a bloody military coup, and they overthrew the government. This is known as Saur Revolution. This is known as Saur Revolution. 28th of April 1978 is the day. The country was renamed. This PDPA Parcham regime lasted till April 1992. Now these guys, I told you, closely linked to Soviet Unionists. So they followed. They were closely linked to Soviet Union, and they followed marxist-leninist ideology. Abolished church, abolished mosques, started discouraging religion. Mosques were closed down. They started implementing state atheism. This is what communism does, right? Communist theory yahi to bolta hai. Religious and traditional laws were replaced. Men were obliged to cut their beards. Women cannot wear that entire, traditional dress. Women's right to vote was taken away. Women's right to vote was given. Women were given the right to vote. They were treated at par with man. Outlawed usury, socialist land reforms. And they asked a lot of Soviet experts came in to help them. So religion was attacked directly. And in a tribally, ethnically, such a diverse population, religion was the probably the only way in which this entire population can be united against the unpopular government. And it is because of the extreme marxist-leninist policy of PDPA Parcham that we hear of rise of Islamic participation. A lot of Islamist parties will start entering. You get me, you get me, you get me. And again, the country was in a civil war kind of a situation. The country was facing another civil war kind of a situation. And the Parcham faction started losing popularity. And this is where Soviets decided that, we should help Parcham militarily. And the Soviet Red Army, it invaded Afghanistan in December 79. 1 lakh Soviet troops, and they were backed by another 1 lakh Afghan military and Parcham faction. They seized power. And with the help of Russian military, they tried to establish their dominance over the entire Afghanistan. कोल्ड वॉर चल रही है, वो मत भूलो. अच्छा, अब कोल्ड वॉर से क्या होगा भाई साहब? these guys, अब अमेरिका आ चुका था. Do you realize? Because England was, done and dusted by Second World War. So now the Americans said that we will, be the next heroes on the center stage. And so the Americans were not very happy with Russian presence in Afghanistan, which is so close to Persian Gulf, the entire oil-producing region. So they did not like it one bit. And there was a huge, panic created. Right? Government decided to, American government started Operation Cyclone. All these, orthodox Islamic leaders of Afghanistan, they were recruiting young people called as Mujahideen, to wage a war against the ungodly communists and Parchams. So these people, America, on the advice of these two idiots, इनके नाम यहाँ लिखे हैं, पढ़ लो. On the advice of these two idiots, CIA, American government, they initiated Operation Cyclone, and they gave $40 billion. America and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia was the patron of the Sunni Islam. So Saudi Arabia and America, they collectively gave cash and weapons worth $40 billion to these Islamic mujahids. The Soviets, they did their own shit as well. They continued, torturing people. This is all, most of the data which I share with you, I ensure that it is coming from more than one sources. Right? So, most of the data will be verifiable. They killed, more than 2 million people, raped and maimed million others. 60 lakh people, they fled to either Pakistan or Iran. Many of them went to your USA or EU as well. And they shared verifiable torture stories. And, America, they had their own way of, propaganda as well. Right? This was Khad. Khad was the secret agency of, secret police of Afghanistan during this time, who tortured people, abducted people, anybody who was suspected. Right? This is Muhammad Najibullah. Right? He was the president of Afghanistan during this time. From 87 to 89, he was the president. From 87 onwards till 90s, he was the president, right? Okay, fair. The Americans, right? So finally, in the middle of all this great international pressure, right? Russia decided to, and they were also suffering huge losses in numbers, man. They were suffering huge losses. Afghan terrain is not easy to control, it seems, right? So they suffered huge losses, and they decided, all right, enough is enough. We withdraw. In 1989, they went. America was very pleased with it. They announced it as the victory of their own ideology. In 1988, there was a movie, Rambo 3, based in Afghanistan, where the movie ended with this declaration. Do you see the kind of ideological and financial support must have been given to glorify their work, to glorify their story? $40 billion. बाद में जब इनको पता चला कि क्या हो गया, because the same money, same guns were now being used against them, तब इन्होंने इसको चेंज कर दिया to the gallant people of Afghanistan कर दिया, बेचारे ना. Several attempts at peace were made, but the pitch was getting very I don't know. When I say pitch, what do I mean to say? I'm saying the entire situation was becoming very murky. ISI was also getting into the picture. ISI, the secret agency of Pakistan, they are also getting into this situation. Right? They tried to create some kind of a coalition between the Mujahideen parties and the army and get it some kind of, legitimacy and start working. But did not happen. Some names which I think you should know here, which I will tell you here, and try and keep them in mind, because they will help you in understanding the story here. I'll try and keep it very simple. I'll not try and make it very complicated. Just few names, right? Gulbuddin Hekmatyar. He was a leader of the Mujahid faction. One of the Mujahid, there were several Mujahidist parties, right? He was a faction of one of them, and he received a lot of financial, the maximum amount of money came to Hekmatyar. And a lot of Mujahids supported him, but not all. Right? This is Hekmatyar. He became PM twice. Right? Not all the Mujahids were comfortable with him as the ruler. So once again, right, continuous warring is going on. This is Burhanuddin Rabbani. He was a professor at Kabul University and also the leader of a Mujahideen outfit known as Jamiat-e-Islami. He was a Mujahid, so he must have fought against the Russians. He was chosen by all the Mujahid parties except the Hekmatyar faction. So now these two guys are also, Hekmatyar and Rabbani, they are also 36 का आंकड़ा बैठ गया इनके बीच में. Pakistan kept on, right? And this guy, Hekmatyar, he remained the president for 9 years. And this fellow, during his presidency, see, ISI is double game here, right? They carried on pumping money to the Hekmatyar faction. They had their own agenda. They wanted a pan-national Islamic revolution in Central Asia. They had that kind of a notion. One of the most interesting photos, isn't it, of the current history. bin-Laden, Osama bin Laden, right? This is the flag of Al-Qaeda, which he established in 1988. During the Soviet-Afghan War, he was a Saudi Arabian, by the way, right? This is Shahada. Shahada is what is written here is called a Shahada. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulallah. Right? Wo wala. Acha. So this is during Soviet-Afghan War, he created this outfit. He was from Saudi Arabia, rich son of a billionaire. And he established this outfit. And through Pakistan, a lot of money was channeled. He did that. Pakistan played that part. Okay. In 1994, Taliban was established. right? Taliban emerges from Jamaat-Ulema-e-Islam. Jamiat-Ulema-e-Islam. Jamiat-Ulema-e-Islam, beta, jo ye, this organization, it actually traces its origin to Jamiat-Ulema-e-Hind, which was established in 1919 by one Mr. Hashmi, Deobandi scholar, right? But the name was changed to Islam. And from that emerges Taliban. Right? This is the Talibani Shahada flag. This is Mullah Omar. He is the founder in 1994. He is the one who established Taliban with 50 students of madrasa, armed students in Kandahar. From Kandahar he began. Right? Meanwhile, Hekmatyar was not turning out to be a good bet for Pakistan. So Pakistan, now, against Rabbani's rule, they start funding the Talibanis. And now Taliban starts getting really strong in several regions. They capture Kabul. In 1996, Rabbani is now in exile. Women were targeted, imposed their own interpretation. 15 massacres between 1996 and 2001. 15 massacres. This is as per UN report. So Taliban started capturing this yellow region is Taliban. From Kandahar they are moving upwards. The anti-Taliban faction, they came to be known as the Northern Alliance because they were powerful here. Right? And meanwhile, Al-Qaeda and Taliban were cooperating. And then this happened. 9/11, 2001. Bush immediately demanded that Taliban hands over Osama bin Laden. Taliban smiled and refused. Bush launches Operation Enduring Freedom and starts invading and bombing Afghanistan in the name of war on terrorism. This, picture, it changed 21st century. It somewhere completely blowed everyone away. Americans invaded, right? And as they started capturing more and more region, they appointed Hamid Karzai as the president. He stayed president till 2014. Operation Enduring Freedom ended in 2014 when Obama came in. He ended it. It was believed, it was hoped that now things will improve. Right? After this, of course, once this happened, American continued their work in Afghanistan. They continued with their construction activities and other, activities as well. And all that work is called as Operation Freedom's Sentinel. Operation Freedom's Sentinel. And finally, this operation, which was supposed to end on 31st of August 2021, it ended on 30th of August 2021 in a complete and utter humiliation of humanity. This is complete and utter humiliation of humanity as a whole. Right? So, do you see how people have tried to get there for their own agendas, and how they had to, extremely pathetic, I would say. This is how, things stand here. Of course, I have not been able to give a very fair understanding of the modern happenings, I believe, the Taliban and all. But again, I believe for the time being, this is where, I think I should draw a line. And let's see how things unfold. God bless you. Thank you for being so patient and wonderful with me. And happy learning. Bye.